Welcome to, I didn't know what to call this part of the conference because clearly the entire PyCon is many days. So I guess second day of the talks. So just a reminder, we are still actively looking for volunteers. And if you have any questions, our amazing chairperson, Elaine, is right there. Can we give a huge round of applause for Elaine? And for my hispanohablantes, necesitamos su ayuda for PyCon charlas. So we would love your help. So Abigail, what's been your favorite part so far of PyCon?
Most definitely hanging out in the expo hall, especially at the PSF booth. Have you seen how beautiful the PSF booth looks? So many exciting things to do. I hope that you pass through and take some pictures and interact with some more people.
And we also have the events calendar for events around the world. I'm very jealous of the folks from the APAC community with the tour shirt. One day I will finish all of that. But let's go ahead and get started in the lightning talks. As a reminder, what happens when we start getting close to 5 minutes, friends? We start tapping politely, and then a great crescendo of thank you-ness with applause, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Chris is demonstrating very well for us. So I have a really tacky joke. What is Mario's favorite pair of pants? Anyone? Denim, denim, denim. And as a great introduction, I think, OMG, Mario, you go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. ORM, OMG. Think of an object relational mapper, an ORM, as a way to avoid writing SQL by writing Python instead, kind of like this. Easy, right? Perhaps one of the best known features of the web framework Django, for example, is the ORM, which includes many useful database operations baked in. But what if you're not using Django, but you still want access to some utility-based classes for automatic audit columns or primary keys, CRUD operations? What if you want bulk inserts, upserts, deletes out of the box, or tested support for major databases such as SQLite, Postgres, MySQL, DuckDB, CockroachDB, and more, but in a framework-agnostic way? Well, this is my pitch for you to learn about Advanced Alchemy. Advanced Alchemy is a wrapper around the already pretty great ORM library, SQL Alchemy. And sure, it's already framework-agnostic, but look at all these awesome things that Django ORM gives you right out of the box for free. So how does Advanced Alchemy do that? Let me just give you a quick example. Let's say you've got an idea for a database table. So you create a class. If you want to bake in the database schema using SQL Alchemy, it might look a little something like this. Next, you create a repository from the Advanced Alchemy class by inheriting that, and you include your model as an attribute. Now, by tapping into your database session, your repository is now ready to use all these baked-in functions. So, for example, it now has access to all the built-in methods like create, update, delete, list, get one, get all the things. And there's also included filters and other useful things, plus you can add your own custom logic as needed. So Advanced Alchemy is maintained by the Lightstar organization, which also happens to have their own web framework, but they weren't selfish. They created Advanced Alchemy as a standalone library, which you can install through PyPI. Now, I personally was working on a project recently where I wanted to use SQLite as a database to build a sports league management tool. But I just wanted to do this with CLI, so I could decouple it from any front-end environment. I didn't want to deal with that at the time. So I was able to create this CLI app that leverages Advanced Alchemy, and I was able to work on the business logic, on the database design without having to reinvent the wheel with a plethora of common database operation logic. In addition, there's an obvious and somewhat annoying aspect of working with databases that is so far absent from this talk. Django has a way to manage your database migrations, for example, with a couple of commands that makes it pretty straightforward to iterate through changes to your database models. Outside of Django land, most of the time you will be directed to another great but sometimes difficult library to work with, Alembic, to manage your migrations. However, the mental overhead required to re-implement the migration logic into your projects becomes another hurdle. Which brings me to another hidden gem of advanced Alchemy, which also includes a wrapper around Alembic, providing a way easier interface to initiate your projects with migrations, and all that workflow is reduced to a couple of commands. Now, that's the approach I took to create League Manager, which is also up on PyPI if you should choose to check it out. It's a CLI app. You download it and you use the CLI to interface with your SQLite database. Here you can see the app in action. This is just a little looping video. The CLI's command taps into a set of advanced Alchemy commands. So there's a mgr, which is the CLI command I use for it. db init initiates an Alembic environment under the hood. mgr db make migrations, similar to the Django command, makes the migration files, and then finally mgr db upgrade actually executes that migration. It creates your tables and gets you ready to go. Now you have access to all those commands. Now, I will be hosting an open space at 4 p.m. today to talk about ORMs, League Manager, and anything else. I hope to see you there. Thank you so much.
Now, thank you, Mario, for sharing your OMG on ORMs. Now, up next is Maya. She'll be speaking on how a car mechanic became a developer. Let's give her a hand.
Thank you so much. I've done enough public speaking to know that my stage fright usually goes away at about 7 minutes after I start. So 2 minutes after this talk is over, I'll be fine. I have an associate's in automotive technology. I was fully ASE certified, fully a mechanic. I worked at a Toyota dealership for 1 year. I then worked at a mom and pop shop for 5 years. All during that time, we generally ordered parts from O'Reilly's Auto Parts, but we also ordered parts from other companies as well. We would take the receipts after a job was over and manually enter them into QuickBooks. And it would take probably about, if we had a big job, it would take maybe half an hour to do an entire write-up for an invoice. And I was like, I know a little bit about computers, I know a little bit about Python, I think there's a better way to do this. I think I can save time for everyone in the shop. So I started looking into like, what's the QuickBooks SDK, what is the, is there an API? And I found a rat's nest of an XML API for the QuickBooks version I was using. I had no idea how to use it, absolutely none. So I was like, after looking and looking and trying, I was like, let me come at it from the other direction. I found the beautiful soup library, and I learned how to scrape the O'Reilly's website for parts information based on the license plate that we used to look up the cars. And then I was like, okay, cool, I can store this data. Oh shoot, I need a database. Let me figure out how to use a database. So I did research on that, and I learned how to use a database. And then eventually it was just little parts, part by part, putting it together again until I could finally flag something and then import it into QuickBooks, and it would take me about 2 minutes to finish an invoice, so long as I had entered all the data in the software. And I was like, okay, I need to be able to access this from anywhere in the shop. So I asked people for old computers and installed Linux on them so that I could run a web app and enter parts from anywhere I was in the shop. I showed it to a few people, and I started using it in the shop. It was a lot of fun to use. It made me really happy. And someone told me I should sell it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I should sell it. I think I broke about 300 UI or UX rules. It really looks bad. It's not a good product. I know how to use it, but nobody else knew how to use it. And then a second person told me I should sell it. And I was like, no, that's a bad idea. I'll get sued or something. This is a terrible idea. And then when the third person told me I should sell it, I said, again, no. But what I will do is I'll sell myself to a company, and I'll sell my skills to a company, and I'll show them this is what I did. And so I found a company that was willing to hire me for desktop support. It wasn't an actual developer job, it was just desktop support. And for about 3 years, in between tickets, I learned how to program and develop better. And helped people connect their microphones to Zoom, because that was during COVID, and where the mute button was, which was a lot of fun. And eventually, after 3 years of that, I found a company here in Pittsburgh who was willing to hire me for a developer position. The moral of the story, I think, is never stop trying. And also, just to let everybody know, because I know you're wondering, I did not save any time writing invoices. Thank you.
I'm the child of 2 small business owners, and I will tell you, I tried to use QuickBooks before. For me, it's just very confusing. So more power to you, Maya. I love that for you. Let's give another round of applause for career changers. Also local community, local hometown heroes, right? So up next, we have Joel, who might be telling us something quasi-magical.
Yes, thank you. So I'm here to talk about Automagical Metadata. We've all seen this. And the thing is, we all know that data quality is just not there, right? It's pervasive from the biggest organizations to the smallest organizations. Data quality is just not something that we take for granted. So that's why we have titles like data scientists, data wranglers, data janitors, because we need to make the data fair, make it findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, right? And we've been doing this for about 15 years now. We started with helping governments with their open data initiatives, publishing data. But over the years, we've learned something, that maybe we should flip the switch and treat it as a verb, opening data, which is humanizing, contextualizing the data by really squeezing a lot of high-resolution, high-quality metadata for it to make it useful for all kinds of things by both machines and humans alike. So we built a data refinery where basically we manufacture and have this fair factory where we produce all these data products, high quality, high resolution metadata. The great thing about it, it allows you to have, now that we have chief data officers and AI and all that, the great thing about high quality, high resolution metadata, it's the perfect context for your AI initiatives. And if you pump it into a data portal, like CCAN, built on Python, of course, you can really make it, have this one central source of truth for your data. And you don't have to pump all your data into CCAN. You just pump in the high quality, high resolution metadata. And since CCAN has a great, mature, robust API, you can build applications on it, and you can have, build all kinds of interfaces on it. But the thing with opening data is what we've learned over the past 15 years, deploying almost 100 data portals across the country, it's hard. So we wanted to make it easy. And if you do it the old-fashioned way, typically it would take you, a long time to wrangle the data, clean up the data, normalize the data, then extract the metadata. We came up with what we thought was a magical way to do it, and I'll give you a little preview. Okay, let me start. So here's a recording. So this is CCAN. I'm uploading a 311 file. This is about 1 million rows with about 520 megabytes. Notice I uploaded the file first. I'm not filling out any metadata forms. This is normally about 2 seconds, but this is running on a virtual machine. That's why it took about 3-4 seconds. But now, this is a recording, but you can see there are these hints next to the metadata labels. It pre-computed that metadata using Jinja. And the way it was able to do that was behind the scenes. We're using Rust, we're using Polars, we're compiling a lot of high-resolution metadata and frequency tables. Just to give you a sense of how fast that is, that 500 megabyte, 1 million row file took all of 2 seconds to produce 35 statistics. And it took about a second to produce a frequency table for all 41 columns. So if you want to find out more how it's done, where you can configure that with CCAN using a configurable YAML file where you can use Jinja 2 expressions like Excel to infer a lot of this metadata. So you can have robust, high quality, high resolution metadata just by dropping a raw file into your CCAN portal. You can join us later at our open space, room 309 from 4 to 6. Hope to see you there. Thank you.
Right. Data, data, data. I hope you're able to join the open space soon. Up next, we have Alex on music, LilyPond, and Python. Alex, take it away.
Good morning. My name is Alex Ambrioso. I'm a retired math teacher from Tampa, Florida. And in retirement, I decided to teach piano lessons. We have a local music store, and they have about 20 teachers. I've really enjoyed it. It's very cool to work one-on-one rather than with a classroom of students, so I've enjoyed that quite a bit. But I have also enjoyed my colleagues. And one of my colleagues, he's not in this picture, but his name is Justin. And he had this idea, or he believes, he's very into composing and melodies, that Beethoven's Ode to Joy is like the best melody you could do with a few simple rules. And I told him, well, we could actually probably generate all the melodies, not the Beethoven, if we simplified the rules a little bit. And then just as a proof of concept, I had this idea. It's a very simple idea, but I'm hoping that some other musical people might talk to me and we can use it for other things. Here's the idea. There is a program called LilyPond. It's open source. It's basically, you can think of it as a markdown language for music. So you put in these codes, this backslashes for a command, and it will, this thing between the curly braces here will generate music, and you can do anything with it. You can write symphony scores if you want to. But the Python or programming gives us this superpower, and I realized that if I manipulate the text, I could generate permutations of melodies. So what I did was I wrote a fairly simple program. Let me see if I can find it. here. This is the code. I'm not going to go through every detail here, but the top of it, there's a function. It generates a file and writes a file with a with statement. Somebody had talked about recommending to close everything, close files, so I did that. And it writes a LilyPond file, which is an LY file that looks like this. The function generates all the melodies. They're put into staves, and this was generates all the combinations of 5 notes, G, A, B, C, D, all the permutations, I should say. And then the score ends up looking like this, and whoops, not the most beautiful result here in the world. I lost it now. Sorry, folks. Let me see if I find it here. Oh, I'm going to run out of time before I find it. It's behind my window. Left here? There we go, thank you. And basically there are 60 melodies because there are 60 permutations, or 120, I'm sorry, 120. They're generated in this rough way, but if anybody has some idea of doing this a little better, or doing something with it, or doing something with LilyPond, since it's text files and music, I thought the combination might be something other people might be interested in. Very quickly, if I have a little moment here, I was going to, find it. Sorry, this is probably awkward now. But this is a more complicated file. So just in case you're interested in music, this is a choral thing. It was done in parts, and I wanted to have a piano score, so that was generated automatically once I input all the parts. So you can see that LilyPond is capable of doing a lot with scores. I think that's all I have to say, and thank you very much for listening.
Is that me? As someone who plays the piano, I think that is awesome, so we should definitely chat. Maybe make an open space about that. That'd be phenomenal. So for those of you coming in, why don't you mosey on up? And as a Chicagoan, this is a talk I very much think is very applicable to spaces as we navigate them. So I'm going to go ahead and let Fay explain a fantastic topic.
Hi, I'm Fay. I am in Boston Pie Ladies, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Malden, where I live 7 miles north of Boston. I'm a data scientist, and so here is going to be some data. Let's see. All right, around 2018, I started seeing these really scary headlines, pedestrians being killed, especially elderly, especially at night. I heard that in 2022, it was the highest number of pedestrian deaths in 40 years. So seeing this, and then this happened, 2023. This hit really close to home. A woman was coming home and hit by a car. This was half a mile from my home, so literally close to home. So what does a concerned citizen do, and what does a data scientist do? So I went and I found some data at the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. This is the crash impact portal. It has data on crashes, time of day, geolocation, and lots of really important pieces of data. So what I did, I looked at what does this data look like for Malden itself. I found that between, these are crashes between 2015 to 2024. There's an upswing from COVID, and in 2024, 90% of crashes in Malden involved a cyclist or pedestrian. So what is walkability? One way you can look at it, Redfin has developed Walk Score, and it's about proximity to different things, restaurants, other things. So this is a point in downtown Malden. It's considered a walker's paradise. It's close to the library, it's close to restaurants. But is it safe? The reality is that this is a really busy intersection, that the timing is quite off, and if you look at the Mass.crash crash portal, you find that it's within these top 5 pedestrian clusters, and also these beige ones are crash clusters. So in taking these two ideas, I combined thinking about walk score and thinking about car crashes. What if we could think about walkability in terms of a region around a certain place? So I developed MOSEY, Move On Safely, Everyone. And so if you have a Malden address, you can type it in, and you can see this bounding box of 27 car crashes in the last 10 years. So is it walkable? It's definitely something to consider when we talk about what it is for walkable. So you can go to the site, you can enter an address, you can also choose one of these radio buttons. So now it's time for action. In Malden, this is a map of car crashes between 2015 and 2024. Red is pedestrians, orange are cyclists, and they're mapped along this. And then there is a blue community trail that is used by cyclists, pedestrians, and there's this greenway that has been proposed. And there is a lot of criticism, like you're taking away parking spaces, you're making things less walkable, you're making it harder for people to get downtown. But imagine if you took all these red lines just east of this proposed trail and just moved them west. What if we could make things a safer place? So I'm happy to be part of Malden Safe Streets and Bike to See, so shout out to my local organizations, and hopefully we can move on safely, everyone together.
Thank you so much for shedding more light on this critical issue. Thank you.
Good morning. I want to talk about the Sony IBO, which is an old robot that's, even the newest models are at least 20 years old now. So yeah. Just getting a little background. So the Sony IBO is a robot that first came out in 1999. And there were some iterations, and it was eventually discontinued in 2006. Some super quick notes. Most models after 2000 have 802.11, and they were pretty advanced, but they were super expensive. They were used for RoboCup and a few development environments, but also for fun. They have 64-bit MIPS chips, and eventually they were revived in 2018 for some reason. Why hack IBO? These dogs are really impressive, but some of their motions are pretty limiting. The Sony memory stick that powers them only has like up to 8 megabytes of storage typically, so not pulling a ton of data. So overall, this can make interactions feel repetitive or stilted and things like that. But what if we could change that? Enter WebSockets. Luckily, in 2005, Sony blessed us with this, which is very complicated, but is basically a Windows framework to communicate data to IBO over a series of WebSockets. So using these WebSockets, theoretically, we could listen to the audio coming in, use Whisper to transcribe it, use a local LLM on another machine to generate a response, and then optionally use a TTS engine like XTTS or RVC2 to create audio from that response and send it back to IBO. So demo, here's a quick demo I pulled up. Let's see.
Good morning, how's the volume?
Okay, that's good. So now, I made this in like 15 minutes with Cursor. I didn't have a lot of time. This might take a minute. Okay, good morning. let's see if this works. Hopefully this works. What do you want to say to PyCon? And all this is running locally, and it could be sent back to the dog. It's taking a while here.
Let's see if this works. Hopefully this works. What do you want to say to PyCon? Hello, PyCon community. We are excited to be a part of such an innovative and vibrant gathering of Python enthusiasts. Your passion for coding, learning, and sharing knowledge is truly inspiring. We appreciate the opportunity to contribute to your journey by providing insights, solutions, or simply engaging in meaningful discussions about Python, its applications, and future developments.
And yeah, we can go ahead and stop it there because it will yap. Well, but this is just a quick demonstration of how we can use local LLMs to give IBO some new flair. So yeah, these robot dogs still rock. This demonstration basically shows how we can use flexible technologies, including Wi-Fi in this case, to really extend support for legacy hardware. And by adopting cutting-edge and popular emerging technologies, developers, engineers, and consumers can equip their products for a rapidly changing and bright future. I mean, unless you heard the keynote yesterday. But it was fun. So yeah, thanks. You can find me at Doggies Galore at GitHub and at Doggies Galore everywhere else. And I will be at the open space this afternoon, and I hope to see you there. Happy PyCon Day 2.
So I think I mentioned yesterday, I have 3 big, fluffy, fat Maine Coons. So now I need to make a robotic one, apparently, and just have it, like, talk to my cats. So new project, I guess? I don't know, I have to find a robotic cat. But next up, we have Eric, who's going to tell us how to simply do things.
Good morning, PyCon. My name is Eric. I'm going to talk to you about Django-simple-deploy. It's deployment for Djangonauts with deadlines. Matthes at all the socials. Django-simple-deploy is a plugin-based system for automating deployments to any hosting platform. It's initial deployment in one step. Manage.py deploy -- automate all. So let's try a live demo, see if we can do deployment in under 5 minutes. So I have a Django project that runs locally. Make sure of that. Manage.py run server. And here's my BlogMaker Lite project running locally on this computer, no configuration for deployment. And so now let's close out that and let's deploy it. Manage.py deploy -- automate all. And yes, we want to do this. All right, so this is now doing all the work of configuring the project for Heroku, basically like you would if you read the Heroku docs. While it's working, if this works, it's going to interrupt the presentation with a working deployment. All right, so the full version, you do have to install it like any package, pip install Django-simple-deploy, and you specify the plugin for the platform that you want to deploy to. This is the same thing as just installing the plugin itself. Then you have to add the library Django-simple-deploy to installed apps, just like any third-party Django app, and then you get your deploy command. This works for multiple platforms. It's not specific to Heroku. Heroku happens to work fast, quickly, so I think it can work within the 5 minutes. Currently supported stable deployment to Fly.io, Platform.sh, and Heroku. These are all 1.0 releases. They work. I'm working on a DSD-VPS plugin, and what's exciting about this is this one plugin should support every VPS provider. Django now has a consistent deployment process across many platforms. And so this is what it looks like to deploy to Fly.io. That's what it looks like for deploying to a totally different platform, Platform.sh. And same thing for Heroku. And you can choose any VPS provider, DigitalOcean, Linode, and you have the same deployment process. There are some requirements. You need to use Git. You need to specify your requirements using requirements.txt, poetry, pipenv. You need to have your appropriate platform's CLI installed if your platform depends on that, and you need an active account on that platform. Strengths of this approach, it's a consistent initial deployment process. All the configuration that's done for you is contained in a single commit. It means that typo, a stale documentation from a platform provider does not crash your deployment. It makes initial deployment means it's no longer a sticking point in Django. There's a configuration-only mode. So what if you want to review configuration changes before deploying? It's a slightly longer process. You install the plugin, add it to installed apps. You create the remote resources yourself. You run that deploy command, and it just does the configuration, and then you run the platform's push command and open your deployed project. That looks like install the plugin, add it to installed apps. You create the resources needed. There we go, it worked. So deploying to fly with the configuration-only mode, you create the resources, you run deploy without the automate all command, and it just does the configuration. It doesn't make a commit for you and doesn't push your project. You can run git diff, you can review the configuration changes and then commit them if you're comfortable with what it's done to your project. Then you run your platform's deploy command and you have your project. This means that Django now has a deploy command. Full documentation, django-simple-deploy.read the docs. I'm doing an open space tomorrow at 11 in room 315. I'll be here for 3 days of sprints, and I'm Matthes at all the socials. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, for that amazing talk. Now we have more tools to help us deploy our Django apps with ease and confidence. So before our next talk, do we have Wenqing in the room? Oh, okay, awesome. Good to see you. So yeah, Matt is here for our next talk. He has this exciting or something nice on his neck, and he's doing a talk on Python and lasers. Let's give him a hand.
Good morning, PyCon. I am Matt, and I currently work at Glowforge, which means I like to talk about software and lasers. So today, I'm here to talk to you about lasers. Real quick, flashing image warning. Lasers! Which we'll get to in just a moment. So in so doing, I wish to encourage you to make things. I love software. I love Python. I experience joy in the creativity and the technogenesis of bringing something new into the world that hasn't been created before. But sometimes I grow weary with sorrow and much toil, and I yearn for respite. This is a Python conference, so let's explore a way that we can make things with Python. Story time. I want you to meet Pingu. He's a friendly, anthropomorphic European cartoon penguin who never speaks, but has a full vocabulary of sounds to always say everything that he needs. My kids are big fans, and they wanted to be Pingu for Halloween, which sounded like an opportunity to gift my children with the ability to speak like Pingu with this box that you see here. And when you're a Pythonista, every problem looks like a software problem. So enter CircuitPython. This is an incredible project, and there's several others like it that let you run Python on a microcontroller, Raspberry Pi Pico in this case. And there's lots of libraries for tricky things like playing audio files. So one small eon's worth of soldering and about 82 lines of code later, I have the brains of the operation. But why stop there? Everyone knows that a good brain needs a good skull. So enter boxes.py. This is an awesome open source project script app repository of parametric enclosures. There's tons of different trays and boxes and containers and whatnot. You put in a few measurements and it spits out, via Python, a vector file, SVG, which goes directly to the laser. Thank you to my employer. I have a laser. So I pop that into the design, I press go, and thanks, in part, to Python, I get pieces out for a nice enclosure to wrap everything up into a nice and easy to hold box for little kids to wear around their neck and look adorable on Halloween. And 1 metric ton of hot glue later, we have ourselves a finished project. thanks to lasers, solder, and Python. So if you want to talk about Pingu, electronics, lasers, or software, come find me. Thank you.
Well, my heart is singing right now. And as someone who cannot carry a tune whatsoever, I think we're going to have some interesting discussion about singing. Is that correct, Tristan?
Maybe.
Maybe. Or, you know, we'll see what happens. So, Tristan, go ahead. Let's hear what you got to say.
All right, good morning. Wow, this is my first lightning talk. And I can barely see anyone in the audience because of the lights. This is actually in my favor. Great, no stage fright. So, this lightning talk is titled, If Paint Splatters Could Sing, They Would Probably Sound Awful. I'm going to warn you ahead of time, I'm not going to actually play any audio. I can't imagine playing this in this room. That would be terrible, awful. And we'll find out why. So a little bit about me. My name is Tristan. I currently work as an academic technology specialist at Barnard College. I've done a lot of different things for work and fun in my life, and I like to think that my use of Python reflects that pretty well. So what's this talk about? Well, last year I walked into my school's design center and I saw this. This is a paint splatter, just so we're clear. I promise. And the irony of the sign was a bit too much to crop out, so I left that up there too. And as soon as I saw this, I thought, wow, this actually looks a lot like music notes. Up there tilting my head like this. It's like, looks like music notes. In fact, it looks a lot like MIDI notes, the kind of things that I would see when I use a tool like Ableton, GarageBand, etc. And it was so striking that I had to know what it was going to sound like if I turned it into MIDI notes, naturally. Pictured here is my expectations. It's a paint splatter. It's chaotic, it's beautiful. To derive music from another medium like this, just, wow. This will be good. And pictured here is what the first pass sounded like. Now, there is some beauty and intrigue in this, I will give you that. But it was not what I expected. But more importantly, I found out that it wasn't about the outcome, it was actually about how I got there. So I made a plan. I needed to detect the paint drips in that picture. I needed to fit them to a grid. I needed to map that grid to MIDI. I needed to play the music back to myself. And then I needed to rejoice because I could hear what the paint sounded like. And through some exploration, I found some good tools to do this. So I jumped into Jupyter Notebooks. I immediately knew that I was going to want to see the changes along the way, and I used Jupyter Notebooks because the idea of trying to factor this into pieces in some kind of more organized project was unfathomable. So I started by processing the image to see if I could get the paint drips outlined. But once I saw the output, another thought hit. What if I wanted to change the threshold? And what if I wanted to change how the notes are detected? What counts as a blob? What counts as a note? What do notes look like in this case? What if I wanted to change how much variety there was in the notes? How many staff lines I wanted to make? Did I want to make it have a particular rhythm? Did I want to force it to be within a certain scale so maybe it would sound a little bit melodic? Spoilers, it didn't. So I made some sliders. I love sliders. Made some sliders, and this was progress. But then I started asking, who is this for? Why am I doing this? I'm spending now hours of my time trying to turn a paint splatter into music notes. Well, it was for me. I could settle on that. But what if it was for everyone? What if I wanted to show someone else? And the notebook was already becoming interactive because I wanted to play with it, so what if someone else wanted to play with it? But what if someone else wanted to change all of these things too? And that's where I was faced with the situation that I'd been in before. I thought that my goal was just to make a quick app that would turn this image into MIDI so I could hear the paint. But once I'd done that, it was done. That felt really boring. And the fun that I have with making tools is rarely about using the tools, it's about building them. So I found that what was really there was the opportunity to make a bunch of different choices and share those. So ultimately, we got through it. We got through it. And now we can change things. So thank you very much. If you want to talk more about this, come find me. I find these kinds of projects really fun.
All right. This is indeed a work of art. Thank you so much for sharing. And now we introduce our last speaker for today's lightning talk. We have here Wenqing, and he'll be speaking on pip install patience. Let's give him a round of applause.
So, hi everyone, my name is Eric Mao, and I'm actually a high school student from Princeton, New Jersey. So today, I'm not gonna go too technical today, so if you wonder anything about what I'm going to talk about, please reach out to me so I can explain. So just yesterday, I just came back from a competition called International Science and Engineering Fair, and I presented my research about an ankle exoskeleton that can help you recover faster after your ankle got injured, a project I've been working on for a year. But you know what? I didn't get anything, no award. But it does not matter, because award is not everything. I'm not here to talk about the results, and I'm here to talk about something I think is more important, and something I have to work over and over, which is patience. So my story started from elementary school, at which I wrote my first Python language at 9 years old. So I searched up what's the coolest language in the world, and I found Python, and of course I know nothing, so I use idle instead of all those cool IDEs. And I wrote my first crazy infinite loop, which is while true, print I'm a hacker. At that time, I thought I'm a real hacker because I broke my mom's laptop, and he almost killed me. She is like so mad at me. But you know what? You don't fix everything instantly. You wait, you reboot, and try it again. And sometimes it works after you try it again. And that's my first lesson in my life in patience, delivered by Python. Well, then I got to middle school. And I joined a competition called AWS Deep Racer, which basically would train an AI racing car, use reinforcement learning, and yeah, also using Python. So at first I was very confident, and then I submitted my first model, which ranked second to the last, and it's full speed off the track, because that's how I provide the reward function. So I didn't give up, because of course, you should always try new things, and I just rewrote the logic, and I watched it fail again and again, and learn again and fail again. But you know what? Eventually, it worked. Because something interesting is that we actually got second place in China, but that's another thing. But what I'm trying to say is that I feel like learning, like a reward function works similar to how we learn. So if you do wrong, right, you got punished. You got limited your points from the reward function we're setting it. If you're doing right, for me, I think the reward is getting more sleep. And it turns out that everything works similarly. So what I'm trying to say is that you fail and you adjust, you write a new reward function for yourself, right? And you keep trying. And I got an internship to AWS. Thank you, AWS, for providing this opportunity. And so what we worked is that we work on quantum computing. So we use a service from AWS called AWS Bracket. And we use it to solve an NP-complete problem called traveling salesman problem. You guys probably know it. It's very common, using quantum annealing. But at first, I don't understand one single thing. Of course, I was a middle school student at the time. And the math was crazy, the qubit, what the hell is that, right? So I learned things day by day, line by line. And the logic just started to make sense to me. So patience didn't really help me wait for me to understand it. Instead, it gave me the space to let myself to gradually learn it. And I got to high school, which is the research I'm talking about, I participate in the competition. So basically what it does is that it reads through your muscle signal data from 500 muscle groups, and then it classifies your walking gait using the algorithm called support vector machine, which is a pretty basic one. And it also predicts the torque using Gaussian process regression, which you guys probably know. And it sends all the commands back to the embedded system And all these written in Python, so if you wonder, please talk to me. But you know what? It failed constantly. It sometimes don't converge the model. The accuracy is like 70% at first, and it's terrible. And once it saw that I was sprinting while I was actually trying to grab the stuff from the ground, and it's just not going well. But I didn't throw it away. Instead, I just debugged, I retrained the model, I retested it, I adjusted, and eventually I can walk with my own design, my exoskeleton. Not because I'm smart, probably because I was patient enough. So I really like a sentence called patience is key in life. So, I mean, yesterday, right, I didn't get any award. I mean, in my life, I didn't probably get any award, but I got something better. I got a project that is working and a mindset that never give up. So patience is really what you need. So next time, if you're failing, if your coding is not working, make sure to try again and be patient. And if you want more project, please contact me or talk to me in person. Thank you all. Yeah.
What a patient way to allow us to applaud you.
So inspiring.
I just like the casual, like, oh, I was just in middle school, came in second in my competition. That's amazing. And I think that's the beauty of this community. So shameless plug, we are both wearing our Pie Lady shirts. And what's happening tonight?
It's the Pie Ladies auction night.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we care about that because our community is for the community, by the community. And I am so excited that all of us are here together in person. I understand it's a time that we're all embracing our weirdness. So that being said, check out the Pilates auction tonight. Go check out the expo hall. Sign up to volunteer. Please, 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 we need your help. And any last thoughts before we sign off?
Enjoy your day. Make sure that you attend all the sessions. Make sure that you are posting about your experiences on social media, because other folks who also couldn't attend PyCon are feeding off of what we are sharing out there to the world. So make sure that you share some of the awesomeness out there as well. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good rest of your day too of main conference talks.